following program is intended for mature audiences.
A democratic republic of sports. The Sportsocracy with ESPN Asheville hosts Tank Spencer and Jeremy Greene.
Best worst case scenarios for 2021. We'll start off with the Washington football team. This is a team that everybody's kind of jumping on that bandwagon going, we recognize how good the defense is. We all recognize that this offense has weapons as well. The offensive line's pretty good. They'll be able to run the ball. The big question mark that I have is, which Ryan Fitzpatrick are you going to get? Are you going to get the really good Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he's going to stick around for a while? Or is this going to be the Ryan Fitzpatrick that comes out for 4 games and then just disappears?
Best case scenario for the Washington Redskins? Nameless and shameless.
Nameless and shameless. They're no longer the Redskins. They're the Washington football team. They can't come up with a name. And I am going to have them in a lot of places to win this division.
They're going into the season as the favorite. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I wholly agree with that. I would say them and the Cowboys are real close.
I would agree.
Because I think the offense is going to be better for Washington than it was last year. I think the defense for the Cowboys is going to be better. The question is, which of your already formidable units is going to be better? I really like the defense for the Washington football team, mm-hmm. And it's going to be one of the best in the league. I'm scared of Ryan Fitzpatrick. As somebody that watched him for a long time, I think people are forgetting there is a whole shitload of bad Fitztragic. Mm-hmm. But if that does not happen, and he's the good Fitzpatrick that we saw predominantly in Miami, this is an 11 or 12 win team.
How good can he be, though? Can Ryan Fitzpatrick still be can he still be the guy that on certain weeks he's going to give you 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, and then the other weeks be, the 3-1 guy? I don't know if he can do it consistently.
You want me to tell you a funny stat about Ryan Fitzpatrick from last year? He played in 9 games. Mm-hmm. He only had 1 game of the 9 he played where he didn't throw either 0 touchdowns or 0 interceptions. That's the definition of inconsistency.
Yep.
3 picks in the first game, no touchdowns. 2 touchdowns, no picks the next 2. 2 picks, no touchdowns in game 4. It was 6 games into the season before he threw both in the same game.
Wow.
Can he be that guy? Yes. I just think you're going to see it about half the time. Mm-hmm. Now, the question is, the weeks that he doesn't do it for you, is the defense good enough to keep you in games, and can Antonio Gibson be good enough to carry the water? Mm-hmm. I would say yes.
I would agree. I think that defensive front is the scariest thing in football.
The front is very, very good.
I mean, with Chase Young and Montez Sweat on either side of the 4-man line, and then you got Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne in the middle. Mm-hmm. They invested a lot of draft capital into creating this monster. I mean, this is the way that Ron Rivera wants to play football. He wants to play damn good defense, run the ball, and take shots when you can. He's got a quarterback, I think, that can do that for him. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a very smart guy. There's a reason that he's stuck around so long, and a reason so many ailing franchises have trusted him to be either the bridge guy or, basically the bridge guy.
He's the definition of a bridge guy.
Some expected him to be the bridge guy a little bit longer than he actually was.
The problem is Washington doesn't have anybody to bridge him to. They don't have the next, whoever's going to be next. Mm-hmm. That can be a positive, it can be a negative. Because if you see 2 or 3 games in a row of bad Fitzmagic, you don't really have anywhere to go. I mean, Taylor Heineke, okay. Do I believe they would do that? No, not really.
You don't believe there's a path where he gets benched for Taylor Heineke?
Is there a path? Yes. Do I find it to be even vaguely likely? No.
I'll disagree with that. I mean, he comes out and he has some of those games that you were talking about where he throws 2 interceptions.
Well, the problem is he never does it. He never does it consecutively.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. If he strings together those and the defense keeps them in games, but they're still losing really close games, I could very well see Ron Rivera saying, let's try this. Let's put Taylor back there.
I don't. I don't see it in the least. He's a good enough backup quarterback.
After the way Taylor played at the end of last year, and playing in the way he played in the playoff game as well against Tampa Bay, I mean, I think that's the reason they brought him back.
They brought him back because he has a familiarity with Ron Rivera.
Right, but he also shocked everybody by playing really well against that Tampa defense. I can very well see a path where they are switching off to Taylor Heineke at some point in the season.
I can't.
That's in the worst case scenario.
I can't. He played 2 games. Mm-hmm. Played against Carolina, and he was half-assed at best. Mm-hmm. He was the definition of game manager quarterback. Mm-hmm. And then, he was fine. He's still 59% completion guy. Mm-hmm. I don't see a path Fitzpatrick doesn't play. Barring injury, doesn't play 17 games. Now, to me, what decides this season for the Washington football team is the first 8 games of the year. Because the schedule on the backside is not great. I could, if you're 4-4 going into the bye week, mm-hmm. you're probably going to finish 10-7 at worst. Problem would come into you need good Fitzpatrick against the Chargers. I don't think you have a snowball's chance in hell winning at Buffalo or against Kansas City or in Green Bay. Mm-hmm. Now, the other 5 games are all winnable. So if you have bad Fitzpatrick against Buffalo, Kansas City, and Green Bay, cool. That's perfect. Because he could throw 400 yards. I still don't think you're going to beat them.
Right.
Now, the other 5, those are all winnable games. You go into the bye week 5-3, you're going to win the division. Mm-hmm. Because then I think at worst you're 11-6. That back half of that schedule sucks. You get Tampa on after a bye, mm-hmm. which I'm probably going to pick them to win that game, barring something horribly unforeseen. Then you go Carolina, Seahawks at the Raiders, Cowboys twice, Eagles twice at the Giants. There's not a lot of losses there.
No.
Because I would say they probably split with the Cowboys, and I will take them to win all 4 other games in the division.
I would agree with that. I think they're much stronger than the New York Giants. I think they're much stronger than the Philadelphia Eagles. They
have one of the weirdest schedules I've ever seen.
Unless the Eagles make a little move, and we'll get to that later on in the best worst case scenarios here in the NFC East.
They just have one of the most bizarre schedules I've ever seen. Through 13 weeks, they will have played 1 division game.
Yeah.
They end with 5 division games in a row, which I think is a positive personally, because that's what's going to shift the division. You get to go through 13 weeks of the season, figure things out, and then you end with 5 in a row. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have seen that as a negative. I see it as a positive, especially because there's 3 with Philadelphia and the Giants in there.
Yeah.
So if gun to my head, I had to pick a team that won this division right now, it's the Washington football team.
I think this is the first time I have ever seen a team have 2 division opponents 4 weeks in a row. Because they go Dallas, Philly, and then end out on the New York Giants. I think that could play in their favor, very much so.
There are a lot of people that don't agree with that, and I don't really understand that. It would be one thing if they played in the AFC North, and it was just defense after defense after, but it's not. You're playing 3 shit defenses in a row.
Right.
I don't see how that's a negative just because they're in your division.
Well, it's because the Cowboys are on that schedule. You look at the Cowboys, and everybody thinks, the Cowboys are going to be so good. Their offense is going to be so, so versatile. Okay. I get a game in between where I get to tee off on my opponent.
The offense will be very good. The fact that you get them 2 times late, you got to remember, Dallas had a lot of injury issues on that line.
Yep.
So if you're telling me I get Chase Young, Payne, Jonathan Allen, all those guys, and there's a possibility they don't have Tyron Smith? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because Dak's going to get hit early and often.
Yeah. Best case scenario, they go 11-6.
I would say 12-5.
12-5?
Best case scenario.
Okay. Best case scenario, 12-5. I have them as a playoff team. I have them winning this division. I like what the Washington football team has built here. I just wish that they had a quarterback. Or a better quarterback. Ryan is okay.
Rob Johnson said in the comments, think of how bad the quarterback play was last year, and they still won the division.
Yeah.
All you've got to be is you don't even have to go full-assed. You have to be half-assed, And I think that's the definition of Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah. Worst case scenario for the Washington football team, though, is the quarterbacks are no good.
Fitztragic and warm beer.
Yep. Old Taylor Heineken. If you get the Fitztragic, you can turn to Taylor Heineken. But if Taylor Heineken's not the guy, which I don't think he is, I don't think anybody expects him to be the guy. Anything other than a injury replacement for Ryan Fitzpatrick or the bridge guy to the next guy. If those quarterbacks aren't good, your weapons aren't really going to matter all that much.
Let me ask you a question about Ryan Fitzpatrick because I'm curious how close you get on this.
Okay.
Fitzpatrick's played in the NFL since 2005. He's played double-digit games every year minus 3 since 2008. How many years has he finished better than a 63% passer?
Oh.
This is the same stat that I killed Baker Mayfield on, by the way.
Yeah. How many? How many years total?
3. And 2 of them are 2 of the last 3 years. He had done it one time before 2018. He did it the year in Tampa, the second year in Tampa, and he did it last year with the Dolphins. Other than that, he's been 63% or worse every year. He's not an overly accurate guy. He's Brett Favre light. Very, take chances. He's had double-digit interceptions in damn near every year he's been a starter. Didn't last year because he only played 9 games. If he's played a full complement of games, he's had double-digit interceptions every time. And that's the thing that scares me. Because, in my opinion, what Washington needed was that you needed a better version of Alex Smith. Somebody's just not going to turn the ball over. You got the antithesis of that. You got a better bearded version of Jameis Winston. Yeah, he's got a great arm. And there will be times that you go, my God, he's so good. But then there's times that you're like, what in the fuck are you looking at?
Right.
He used to make me want to bang my head against the wall with the Jets. Because the more important the game was, the worse he played. And that is what scares me with him as the quarterback of the Washington football team. Now, that being said, what is the worst case scenario?
The worst case scenario is the quarterbacks aren't good and your defense is still going to be amazing. So you're not going to be out of many games. And I think the worst case scenario for them is probably, I want to say 9-8.
That's where I'm at. 9-8 is exactly where I'm at.
Yeah,
I don't think it can be any worse than that.
Right. I trust in Ron Rivera. I trust in this coaching staff, and this defense is going to be unbelievable. And they're going to be in a lot of games, and they're going to be in close games. And even if you're in close games and your quarterbacks aren't working, I still, define quarterbacks aren't working. Can they still get the ball to Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel efficiently? Vaguely efficiently. Antonio Gibson, I expect him to continue to be a rising star in this league in his sophomore season. So I don't see a path where this team ends up with a losing record.
Funny you should mention that.
Yep.
A stat that I pulled that I'm in awe of that this is actually true. Ryan Fitzpatrick has started games for 8 teams. How many of those teams did he leave the team with a winning record?
1. 0.
Not 1. Best he ever was 6-6 with Houston. Crazy thing. Here's another crazy stat that would, other than Buffalo, he's only played 30 games with 1 team. That is staggering to me. He's only played 2 seasons worth of games with 1 team.
Yeah.
It's the Jets. Jets and Bills. Played did it with 2 total.
Right. He's a journeyman. He's the NFL's.
But you have to ask yourself why. Why is that the case? Alex Sander said in the comments, this is the first time that a team's invested in him, and we don't want to talk about it. It's not that we don't want to talk about it. It's that we don't understand why. There has to be something. He's universally been said to be a good locker room guy. There's got to be something. And the fact of the matter is he just doesn't win a lot. It would be a complete reversal of course for Ryan Fitzpatrick to be quarterback of a 12-5 team. I mean, even with the Jets, When it was talked about, well, why are you not paying him? Which we didn't, and I'm still confused by that. They were 9-7. That's the best you ever were. And I do have reservations. I think the hype on them has gotten dumb. That's where I'm at with Washington. I think the hype on them is dumb. They're being hyped as the third best team in this conference, and I don't get it.
Yeah,
because you're counting on a guy that will poop in your mailbox and set it on fire.
Right.
I've watched him do it.
The second year in Tampa Bay that you were talking about, I think that's the year that he opened up the season throwing like 16 touchdowns in the first 4 weeks of the year. And after that, it just dropped off a cliff. I think immediately after, in the 5th game of that season, he threw 4 interceptions. Like, the wheels came off pretty quickly.
And they do.
Right.
You watch his game logs, it's like watching the most unbelievable game of ping pong you've ever seen in your life. Because it's good game, bad game, good game, bad game, good game, bad game, and it just goes back and forth for 15 years. So to expect that, to me, it's all about the placement of the good games. Because they do play some formidable defenses on the schedule. They're just all in the beginning of it. If you can get to the bye week, not bad. I mean, hell, even if you go in 3-5, if they go into the bye week 3-5, they could still come out of the season 10-7. Now the question is, can you do that and still feel like Fitzmagic's the guy? Because if you do that, if this team's not 4-4, 5-3, 6-2, you're only going to be able to look at him.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the problem because you're gonna be able to run the ball.
Yeah.
The line's still, I don't think it's great, but it's okay.
They're good.
I don't know that I agree with good. I think you're saying average wrong.
Okay. I think, is that me?
Yeah, I was like, for the fucking love of God, the damn table's been vibrating for 28 minutes.
Sorry, it's usually you, so I assumed that it was you.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was not me this time. It's like I feel like I'm having a stroke because the damn table won't stop vibrating.
Damn scammers.
Oh, God. I would say best case scenario, you're 11-6, 12-5, win the division. Worst case, you're 9-8, and you may or may not make the playoffs at 9-8. I would say in the NFC, you most likely don't.
Yeah, I would say at 9-8, you're out of the playoffs, but you're on the cusp, and you can use this year to go, now we know. Now we know the one thing we're missing is a quarterback. And actually, if you don't already have that in your head, you're doing it wrong, in my opinion.
Alex Sanders said a lot of things, but I'm gonna take one high note here. Make him a game manager. Here's the problem: Jets tried that. Yeah, Jets tried that. Would you like to know how they what the reward for his game manager was? He threw 15 interceptions one year and 17 the next. That's not what he is. He's not a game manager quarterback. The perk of Ryan Fitzpatrick is the fact that he's that 24, 23, 31, 20 touchdown guy. That's the perk of him, is that he can move you down the field. He can throw up tremendously big games. My fear is he's had 1 year in his entire life that his interception rate was below 2.5%. That means every 25 passes he throws gets intercepted. Or actually, it's less than that. Or every 40 passes. 1 out of every 40 passes he throws gets intercepted. That's not good. And there's times that it's at 5. The last year in Tampa, it was 7. Or no, 5. Sorry, I was looking at touchdown percent. It was at a full 5% in Tampa. That means that 1 out of every 20 throws that you make gets picked off. If he's that guy, they're in trouble.
There's a lot
because that's asking the defense to do entirely too much.
There's a lot of risk to Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I think that's one of the reasons he fit in so well in Tampa Bay, was because that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to take their shots down the field. They wanted to be risky. And I think Washington's going to do the same. They will take their shots with this team. There's going to be a lot of moving parts on that offense. I think that's what I'm so excited about, because the different looks that you can give with a guy like Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick, 2 guys who can really catch the football. I think we're going to see some innovative things with the Washington football team. They got a utility knife with Curtis Samuel, and they'll use him the same way Ron Rivera was using him in Carolina.
You better hope not.
What?
You better hope not.
To run those end arounds and jet sweeps.
You better
and
hope
stuff
he
like
gets
that.
used the way that Joe Brady used him and not the way Ron Rivera used him. That's one of my biggest fears of this team. is that you paid this cat and you're going to use him the same way that Rivera did in Carolina. Let's be real honest. He was a bust until last year.
He was.
No doubt, not even debatable. He
Right.
had one great year with Joe Brady. Now you're reverting him back to the same scheme that didn't use him properly before, and everybody just thinks it's going to work. Well, they're going to have to learn because what they did in Carolina didn't work for shit. You drafted him and DJ Moore, and the better of the two was DJ Moore by 10 miles.
Right. I like the Washington football team this year, and I think Washington football team fans, even though you don't have a name for your team, you could definitely bank on being still being in the game when the playoffs begin.
The one thing I will say is, for fantasy purposes, J.D. McKissic's going entirely too low. If you're in a PPR league, he should be drafted and drafted reasonably early in every one of them.
Reasonably early, like fourth round? Fifth round?
No.
Something like that?
By reasonably early, I mean he's going in like, if I remember correctly, his ADP was like the 18th round. It should be 5 rounds earlier than that.
Okay.
He should be going ahead of guys like Latavius Murray and Chuba Hubbard. That's one that I see go way too high.
Right.
He should be going ahead of all of those guys because he's going to have a role even with Antonio Gibson.
He had independent value last year. He will have independent value again this year. We are live in the Wicked Weed studio. Check out our friends at wickedweedbrewing.com. Wicked Weed Brewing, drink different. I'm Tank Spencer, and he's Jeremy Greene.